Good morning, students. I hope you all are fine and following all the classes regularly. So, welcome back to prose class once again. We were reading Jack London's To Build a Fire. This short story we were reading, and in our previous two classes we have completed a little bit portion of this particular story. So, before I start today's part, I just wanted you all to remember the part where we left in the previous day. So we found that the man he tried to build a fire under a tree where in a branch of that particular tree it was all covered with snow, and somehow it consumed the fire he lit after many a try. So after much trying, he was successful to lit a fire under a tree, but it was somehow consumed by the ice. So here we can understand that the man was quite failed to understand the consequence of building a fire under a tree that was laden with snow. Along with that, the man was failed to comprehend the risks of his journey that is already established many a times. Now let us see what happens now next. So all of you keep your books ready. It's page number 45, paragraph 3. Such were his thoughts, but he did not sit and think them. So the man was having the thought that he is going to die now, but it was there within his mind, but he did not sit and think them. Rather, he wanted to build a fire. Second time he wanted to build a fire. All right. He was busy all the time. They were passing through his mind. So though he was busy he was busy to build a fire once again, but such were his thoughts that those were coming into his mind. He made a new foundation for a fire, this time in the open where no treacherous tree could blot it out. So he called the tree treacherous, and he chose an open place to build the fire second time. Next, he gathered dry grasses and teeny twigs from the high water flotsam. He could not bring his fingers together to pull them out, but he was able to gather them by the handful. So you can understand his hands were numb. Okay, he was unable to collect them in a proper manner as well. In this way, he got many rotten twigs and his fingers were not working, so he tried to pull them by the handful. All right, so he dragged those stalks. In this way too, he got many rotten twigs and bits of green moss that were undesirable, but it was the best he could do. Means he did not have any other way. So while collecting those things, he collected certain bits of green moss that is not good for his fire, but he did not have any other way out. He worked methodically, even collecting an armful of the large branches to be used later when the fire gathered strength. And all the while the dog sat and watched him, a certain yearning wistfulness in its eyes. So the dog was actually observing the man, and since you all already have come to know that the dog's instinct did not allow, was also trying to make that man understand that it's not a safe journey. Anyway, the man did not pay a heed to anything. So what about the dog? Even he is not going to consider that. So in between, the dog was there, and it watched the man to do all this job, for it looked upon him as the fire provider, and the fire was slow in coming. All right. When all was ready, the man reached in his pocket for the second piece of birch bark rather. He knew the bark was there, and though he could not feel it with his finger, he could hear its crisp rustling as he fumbled for it. So the man could not touch it, was unable to touch it with his finger, but he could understand, he could hear its sound, its frizzling sound. All right. Try as he would, he could not clutch hold of it. But even as his fingers were numb, so he couldn't catch them. All right. And all the time in his consciousness was the knowledge that each instant his feet were freezing, and in the meantime he could understand that his feet it was getting frozen. This thought tended to put him in a panic. That means this thought alarmed him, but he fought against it and kept calm. He pulled on his mittens with his teeth and thrust his arms back and forth, beating his hands with all his might against his sides. So somehow he threw his hands, he bet his fingers. Somehow he wanted to make his body a bit warm, or he wanted to increase the blood circulation of his fingers as well as hands, so that he can do the task, so that his fingers can come to its if not normal, at least from it can overcome that numbness. Anyway, he was not successful. He did this sitting down, and he stood up to do it, and all the while the dog sat in the snow, its wolf brush of a tail curled round warmly over its forefoot. Its soft wolf ears pricked forward intently as it watched the man. While the man was busy to make himself a bit warm, in the meantime, due to its own tail, his entire body, that allowed the dog to get some cozy comfort of his tail. All right. He curled his tail warmly over its feet, and his entire body was somehow a bit warm, and in the meantime the dog was watching the man struggling to build fire for the second time. And the man, as he bit and thrust his arms and hands, felt a great surge of envy as he regarded the creature that was warm and secure in its natural covering. So while doing it, the man was he felt envy of that creature. So we can once again understand that the man his means a kind of frustration, as he was a bit frustrated, he was hopeless. This is once again revealed as he thought that animal to be his envy, since the animal in its natural condition was able to secure certain warmth. All right. After a time, he was aware of the first far away signals of sensation in his beaten fingers. The faint tingling grew stronger till it evolved into a stinging ache that was excruciating, but which the man hailed with satisfaction. He stripped the mitten from his right hand and fetched it forth the birch bark. Somehow he managed. The exposed fingers were quickly going numb again. So he opened his moccasins, his mittens, and then he somehow managed to grab the birch bark. But as soon as he pulled his hands out of the mitten, it was getting numb. All right. Next, he brought out his bunch of sulphur matches, but the tremendous cold had already driven the life out of his fingers, as you all know. Okay. In his effort to separate one match from the others, the whole bunch fell in the snow. Another hint of that, means another consequence of his folly, we can say. Yes. So the entire matchstick, the bunch of the match, it fall down there on the snow. All right. He tried to pick it out of the snow, but failed. The dead fingers could neither touch nor clutch. He was very careful. He drove the thought of his freezing feet and nose and cheeks out of his mind, devoting his whole soul to the matches. So since the match bunch of the match, it fell down on the snow, so he ignored. He tried to forget all about his frozen finger, frozen nose, frozen feet, or anything. Rather, he concentrated completely on picking up the matches, as he couldn't keep a hold of them. All right. He watched, using the sense of vision in place of that of touch, and when he saw his fingers on each side the bunch, he closed them. That is, he willed to close them, for the words were down and the fingers did not obey. So he tried his best to hold them, but he couldn't. It was all in vain. He pulled the mitten on the right hand and beat it fiercely against his knee. Then, with both mittened hands, he scooped the bunch of matches along with much snow into his lap, yet he was not better off. So he tried all sort of tricks so that he can get a hold of those that matchstick or the bunch of matchstick, but it was all in vain, and he couldn't even touch or hold. All right. After some manipulation, he managed to get the bunch between the heels of his mittened hands. In this fashion, he carried it to his mouth. Somehow, with the help of his mouth, he could catch them. The eyes crackled and snapped when, by a violent effort, he opened his mouth. He drew the lower jaw in, curled the upper lip out of the way, and scraped the bunch with his upper teeth in order to separate a match. Somehow, with the help of his mouth, with his jaws, he could manage to separate a single match from the bunch. All right. He succeeded in getting one, which he dropped on his lap. He was no better off. He could not pick it up. Then he devised a way. He picked it up in his teeth and scratched it on his leg. 20 times he scratched before he succeeded in lighting it. So the man struggled to light even a single matchstick. Once again, it again somehow it evokes pity and sympathy within us. His painful attempt, everything, but his decision to ignore everything once again means it ends our pity and sympathy. Where it obviously the man, as his you can understand. So and some more things are waiting. Let us complete that, then I will complete my sentence. Then he devised he picked it up in his teeth and scratched it on his leg. 20 times he scratched before he succeeded in lighting it. So he had to try 20 times. Mark this. As it flamed, he held it with his teeth to the birch bark, but the burning brimstone went up his nostrils and into his lungs, causing him to cough spasmodically. The match fell into the snow and went out. So the man tried his level best, and somehow he managed to light the single matchstick. That is also single stick. That is also fine. But as he was doing all these things with the help of his mouth, so the burning smell, it went into his nose and it caused him to cough, and the match fell into the snow, and the flame once again it extinguished. It died. The old timer on Sulphur Creek was right. He thought, in the moment of controlled despair that ensued. After 50 below, a man should travel with a partner. So once again, in such a condition, once again he remembered what the old man at Sulphur Creek told him, that a man should not travel when it's below 50 below zero. A man should not travel without a partner or should travel with a companion. He bade his hands but failed in exciting any sensation. Suddenly, he bade both hands, removing the mittens with his teeth. See how desperately the man whose is trying, his fingers are numb with cold, but now he bared his hands, both the hands. Okay, and once again, he failed to produce any sort of feeling in them. All right. He caught the whole bunch between the heels of his hands. His arm muscles, not being frozen, enabled him to press the hand hills tightly against the matches. Then he scratched the bunch along his leg. It flared into flame, 70 sulfur matches at once. So you can understand it took 70 sulfur matches at once. And then he could manage to flame that, all right, to build that. There was no wind to blow them out. He kept his head to one side to escape the strangling fumes and held the blazing bunch to the birch bark. As he so held it, he became aware of sensation in hand. So he, since his heads were bare, so he was trying his level best to for the last time, at least for this time he can make it for the last time. So in the meantime, he felt certain sensation in his hands, means his hands are burned, all right. His flesh was burning. He could smell it. So with the smell of his burning flesh, he could understand that his hands were burning, but he couldn't feel that. This must be noted. It's once again, it somehow evokes pity and sympathy again among us, since the man is trying. It's too painful attempt, that must be admitted. Anyway, go on. He could smell it deep down below the surface. He could feel it. The sensation developed into pain that grew acute. Now he could feel the pain as well, and still it endured it, holding the flame of the matches clumsily to the bark that would not light readily because his own burning hands were in the way, absorbing most of the flame. So the man he somehow he was ready to bear such pain, and he was not ready to somehow leave that matchstick, because he was not at all ready to once again this fire to be extinguished. But most of his hand, it was under the flame, and it was obviously too much painful. At last, when he could endure no more, he jerked his hands apart. But there must be even a person must have a certain limit of endurance. So when he couldn't endure anymore, he pulled his hands apart, and the flaming matches, it fell down on the snow. All right, but the birch bark was alight. He began laying dry grasses and the teeniest twigs on the flame. In the meantime, there was little fire, and he tried to make it more. He could not pick and choose, for he had to lift the fuel between the heels of his hands. Small pieces of rotten wood and green moss clung to the twigs, and he bit them off as well as he could with his teeth. Now there were certain green moss clung on them, and he tried with the help of his mouth to set them apart. But that is going to he is going to pay something else. Just wait. He cherished the flame carefully and awkwardly. It meant life, and it must not perish. Very important line. It meant life, means in this particular point of time, obviously fire became his life, and it must not cease, it must not be perished. The withdrawal of blood from the surface of his body now made him begin to shiver, and he grew more awkward. Now he is shivering with cold. All right, A large piece of green moss fell squarely on the little fire. He tried to poke it out with his fingers, but his shivering frame made him poke too far, and he disrupted the nucleus of the little fire. The burning grasses and teeny twigs separating and scattering. So with much effort, he somehow gathered them, and his to be very specific, his folly decision separated them, scattered them, and with this much painful attempt, so far he could have he could manage, that was already destroyed. All right, he tried to poke them together again, but in spite of the tenseness of the effort, his shivering got away with him, and the twigs were hopelessly scattered. Each twig gushed a puff of smoke and went out. The fire provider had failed. As he looked apathetically about him, his eyes chanced on the dog, sitting across the ruins of the fire from him into the snow, making restless, hunching movements, slightly lifting one forefoot and then the other, shifting its weight back and forth on them with wistful eagerness. In the meantime, he observed the dog that was changing its foot from one to another, and it was actually not struggling like the man was. So again, you will find that as I was telling, that the man is so much desperate. The man has frustration has somehow grabbed the man, and he means when, and in the frustration how far it can lead a person, that you all will be definitely come to know now. The sight of the dog put a wild idea into his head. He remembered the tale of the man caught in a blizzard who killed a steer and crawled inside the carcass, and so was saved. Now the man, he seeks comfort into the lifeless body of the dog. That means he is thinking of killing that animal and somehow get the warmth of his hands back by putting his hands into the warm body of the dog when the dog is dead. All right, he would kill the dog and bury his hands in the warm body until the numbness went out of them. Once again, it's proved that the man doesn't have any emotional attachment with the dog. Not even this this frustration or desperation has taken even humanity out of him. Okay, means this killing of this idea to kill his dog to warm himself once again, as I told, it emphasizes this frustration as well as hopelessness. Okay, so he means it's only suggests that his emotional vulnerability. Otherwise, he would have never thought to go such extent. All right. So once again, once again we can understand that means how failed the man is. Means he even wants to kill the only companion of him in order to secure momentary warmth. Yes, of course, the body, how long will it remain warm? It will definitely, even the dead body will definitely get colder. But that means he is going to get only momentary, for a little bit of time he is going to get the warmth, but he is ready to go to that extent as well. Now let's see what happens next. This is very much cruel part. Okay, now then he could build another fire. He spoke to the dog, calling it to him. but in his voice was a strange note of fear that frightened the animal. So the animal, he called the animal, and that animal got afraid, because there he got frightened at the man's voice. Okay, there was something in his voice that somehow the dog's instinct, it made him aware of the upcoming danger. It knew not and its suspicious nature sensed danger. Something was the matter, and its suspicious nature sensed danger. It knew not what danger, but somewhere, somehow, in its brain arose an apprehension of the man. It flattened its ears down at the sound of the man's voice, and its restless, haunching movement and the lifting and shifting of its forefeet became more pronounced, that it would not come to the man. So with its gesture, the dog managed to make that man understand that the dog is not going to listen to him. He got on his hands and knees and crawled towards the dog. This unusual posture again excited suspicion, and the animal sidled mincingly away. So the animal understood and it moved away. The man sat up in the snow for a moment and struggled for calmness. Then he pulled on his mittens by means of his teeth and got upon his feet. He glanced down at first in order to assure himself that he was really standing up, for the absence of sensation in his feet left him unrelated to the earth. So he was, since his legs, it were all was weight, and it was getting frozen. So it took a time to understand, yes, he has finally managed to stand up. His erect position in itself started to drive the waves of suspicion from the dog's mind, and when he spoke, with a sound of whip lashes in his voice, the dog rendered its customary allegiance and came to him. And finally, the dog somehow came its command, and the man's command, and surrendered to that man, came to him. As it came within reaching distance, the man lost his control. His arm flashed out to the dog, and he experienced genuine surprise when he discovered that his hands could not clutch, that there was neither bend nor feeling in the fingers. So when the dog was within his territory, when he tried to take the dog in its within his grasp, he failed. He couldn't do that. He had forgotten for the moment that they were frozen, and that they were freezing more and more. All this happened quickly, and before the animal could get away, he encircled its body with his arms. He sat down in the snow, and in this fashion held the dog while it snarled and whined and struggled. So somehow managed to get a catch of the dog, and in the meantime, the dog, it worked and it was struggling. But it was all he could do. Hold its body encircled in its arms and sit there. Only this much he could do, since his hands and everything, it was getting numb with the extreme cold. He realized that he could not kill the dog. There was no way to do it. With his helpless hands, he could neither draw nor hold his sheath knife nor throttle the animal. So his hands are numb. He cannot even kill the animal. He cannot even hold his knife. He released it, and it plunged wildly away with tail between its legs and still snarling. Means as soon as he freed that animal, it left him, it went away, and it was still barking. All right. It halted 40 feet away and surveyed him curiously with ears sharply pricked forward. And it stopped when it went 40 feet away from the man. He was observing the man carefully. Alright. It struck him as curious that one should have to use his eyes in order to find out where his hands were. He began threshing his arms back and forth, beating the mittened hands against his sides. He did this for 5 minutes violently, and his heart pumped enough blood to the surface to put a stop to his shivering. So somehow he tried his level best to make his body warm, and somehow he could manage a little bit. He got a little bit relief from shivering, but no sensation was aroused in his hands. He had an impression that they hung like weights on the ends of his arms, but when he tried to run the impression down, he could not find it. So his hands proved to him to be merely a certain kind of weight instead of being merely his own hands. So since it was all numb, so means we can understand that there was no feeling created on his hands. So for today I will be ending here. I think one more class is required to complete this text, and we have a live class back to this class. So in between you all go through all the lines and come back to the live class, so that if you have any sort of query or doubt, that can be answered. Thank you so much. Have a nice day.